It's tea time, fools.
Hey there, fools. Big T here, and I'm back with another video. And in this video, we're going to talk about Nintendo haters. As you guys know, I've been around on YouTube for quite some time. If you follow my channel, I think about 5 years, unbelievably. I frequented YouTube a lot before that as just an observer, watching a lot of Nintendo YouTubers mostly. And you know, in those earlier days, probably what, 2011 or so, into 2012, there were a lot of, I won't say a lot, but there were a good amount of Nintendo YouTubers, as well as guys who hated on those YouTubers or just hated on Nintendo in general. And you know, look, it's okay to criticize, and nobody has a problem with you criticizing, you know, anything basically. But there's a difference between criticizing and hating, and I think especially on the internet, people don't know the difference. You can criticize constructively, and your tone can be, you know, one of hopefulness, and you want things to get better. And then there's just like hating or celebrating people's despair, just hating on a product, giving no real criticism. Just like I said, criticism entails solutions, whereas hating doesn't, and it also kind of gives people rejoice in you know, a company or whatever doing bad, or a product doing bad, or just being disrespected. And so there was a lot of that, definitely when I came in. And you know, my intentions were not ever to go at these people who had these channels, who hated on things. And that, I mean, that continues today. I mean, outside of Nintendo, I've seen people, careers being built on hate of like Star Wars. And I have a ton of issues with, you know, Disney, Star Wars and whatnot. I could easily do what a lot of these people do, but at the end of the day, I love Star Wars. So if I started, you know, a movie channel or just another channel where I hated on stuff, it wouldn't last very long, because at the end of the day, I want to have criticism of things that I like. And the problem with these channels, and I'll get back to Nintendo in a minute, is that when your channel starts to blow up on just hatred of things, people expect you to continue to do that. And most people would like to grow from that and do other things. But when you start out that way, and you got people subscribing to you and, you know, following you and jumping on your videos, as you being a hater, it's hard to being taken seriously or being taken constructively in any other, you know, type of videos you do, and you'll just end up being stuck in that mode. So back to Nintendo, that's what's basically happening, or has happened with a lot of these, like I said, hater channels, who try to transition by saying things like, oh, I wasn't a hater, I was criticizing all this time, you guys are just can't take criticism. So they try to transition by doing that, and it doesn't really work. It hasn't really worked for a lot of those guys. And, you know, like I said, a lot of the Nintendo YouTubers that I used to watch don't really do it anymore. They tend to pop up and whatnot sometimes in my videos and get mad at me for saying things about, you know, again, criticizing Nintendo, not being a hater, because I obviously am a huge Nintendo fan, but they don't even want to hear me criticize them. And I don't know, I just think it was a product of the generation we just came out of with Nintendo, the Wii U generation, where a lot of fans felt like they had to defend things. Now, I would never consider myself a defendo, even though that may have been what I was taken as. I take issue with false narratives, and I felt like there were a lot of false narratives surrounded by the Wii U. And so I would combat that. That's just kind of my personality. It's my nature to do that, to combat narratives that I feel are false. And so I was having to do that a lot during the Wii U era. And people, I guess, like I said, considered that me defending Nintendo and whatnot. But it's just that there was so much, heat coming in those days. But now we're in the days of Kumbaya. Nintendo is quote unquote back. I've seen that and heard that quite a few times. Nintendo was back, although they never went anywhere for me. They got better in some ways and they got worse in some ways. And I've talked about that on my channel a lot throughout the years. So I'm not going to retread that stuff. But the Switch obviously is a selling powerhouse, and the gravy train, because there was a gravy train of people, like I said, creating negativity, making negative videos all the time, spreading false narratives. The gravy train has seemed to have derailed. And I've seen, people continue to try to do that, but what happens is that they've been combated a lot more. Like back when I was, like I said, quote unquote defending Nintendo with Wii U, there weren't a ton of voices on that side. So if you're a hater, you would get a lot of congratulatory things. A lot of people would jump on you and jump on your side, I should say, and agree with what you were saying, your narratives and stuff, because there wasn't a lot of pushback in those days from fans and whatnot. Now they would rally around people like me, because a lot of my pushback, like I said, was clever. You can defend things and just defend them and have no real basis, or you could, like I said, offer criticisms and destroy false narratives creatively, like I did a lot and I do still. People will rally around you for that. But now that, like I said, that gravy train has derailed, there are more people on the side of Nintendo and combating you if you say something out the side of your neck, as my grandma used to say, which is just saying stuff that's off and kind of crazy. There are a lot of people that will come at you, and a lot of times it's a core base of your subscription base, and so a lot of people are afraid to even say negative things, or when they do, it's really softball stuff. I'm not, as I said, I'm not, and I know I've lost subscribers and whatnot over that and views, but I will stop doing this when I'm being forced to do it a certain way by people. If I can't do it the way I want to, then what's the point? But some people, if this is a meal ticket and they have to move with the audience, even when they want to criticize and do things, they're afraid to. And so, like I said, I feel like a lot of the negativity and negative, and there's a lot of things to be negative, or not negative, that's the wrong word. There's a lot of things to criticize Nintendo currently for. I've done it. I feel like the quality of the Switch, its build, as far as the Joy-Cons and stuff have gone, is not up to par with what past Nintendo consoles have done. I've mentioned it before on Twitter, I've had way more issues hardware-wise with this console than I've ever had with any other Nintendo console. I don't think the build quality is as good. And, other things, I've talked about the menu and, being able to message friends, all that stuff. I'm not going to retread it. But for the people who are just negative, just to get a rile out of people, to piss Nintendo fans off, a lot of those guys have either fallen away into obscurity or just kind of gone away. And, and a lot of them haven't gone easy. I still see once in a while people trying to, navigate through their negativity in a way that won't completely piss a lot of people off. Because like I said, there's a lot more armor around Nintendo right now, because they have a successful console that's, you know, liked by a lot of people. So it's interesting. It's almost sad in a way, because at least that made YouTube more interesting for somebody like me, that these things don't happen anymore. And I also see Nintendo fans who can't let that era go, who still feel like they have to push back and defend and just find things that they feel are still negative narratives about Nintendo. If anything, Nintendo's getting a pass on a lot of stuff these days, where they didn't get that on Wii U, and I think I've had a video talking about that very thing, where Wii U wouldn't get a pass on certain things that the Switch does. But I still see, you know, not the negative guys, but fans on Nintendo's side who still want to battle the haters, as I say, but that don't really exist in the same capacity that they used to. But these guys are still trying to battle them the same way, and that's also kind of weird and strange. But yeah, that gravy train, hater gravy train, has capsized. It has derailed, and it's just an interesting era to be in. And it also proves like what people are about. Like I said, once you don't have the negativity, and I said this back in the day, once, you know, you can't feed off the negativity for Nintendo or whatever product, once that's gone, you're hanging on to just weirdness dear life, trying to remain relevant in a certain capacity. And that's kind of sad to see former titans of negativity and hate fall off the wagon there. It's kind of bad. But yeah, that's my video. It's just something interesting I was thinking about recently, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you miss that era? I know a lot of Nintendo fans don't miss that era, because like I said, they feel like they were defending things a lot. But I do miss, to some degree, the jousting, because it's not as, you know, strong anymore, because like I said, Nintendo is doing well, and it's, you know, people find it too hard to try to be negative, even when something's justified. So, interesting debate. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you as always for watching and listening, and now see you fools next time. Peace out.